Chosen one. You can feel it, can't you? That strange, almost unexplainable weight pressing on your spirit. It's like the air has shifted thicker, more charged. People are acting differently. Sleep is restless. Technology glitches around you. Sudden tension, irrational arguments, emotions flaring. And through it all, something inside you keeps whispering, this isn't just life. This is war. And you'd be right. What you're sensing is not imagined. It's not anxiety. It's not paranoia. What you're feeling is the ramp-up of spiritual warfare, the kind that only the chosen ones are fully aware of. Because when dark forces unleash their attacks, they rarely come in the form you expect. They slip in through fatigue, distractions, confusion, disconnection from your purpose. And lately, those attacks have been intensifying. The enemy knows something's shifting in your atmosphere. Something divine. So if things have felt heavy lately, if your energy's been drained for no clear reason, if you've been second-guessing your every move, this is your confirmation. You are under spiritual attack. But more importantly, you're being called to rise. Now hear me, this isn't fear-mongering. This is clarity. Because the most dangerous thing for a chosen one isn't the presence of darkness, it's being unaware of it. You've got a light in you that hell itself has tried to extinguish since the moment you came into awareness. And now that you're stepping into alignment, your vibration is rising, sharpening like a blade forged in divine fire. But that means resistance will follow. Chosen one, you are not like those around you. You don't get the luxury of living unaware. You don't get to sleepwalk through life. Your spirit is too awake for that. You feel everything. The emotional temperature in a room, the spiritual heaviness behind someone's smile, the silent tension in conversations no one else notices. That sensitivity, it's not weakness. It's your radar. It's your spiritual intelligence. But it also makes you a target and the enemy. He's not interested in those asleep. He's not spending time on people who pose no threat. He comes for those glowing with divine purpose. That's why you felt so much opposition. The enemy doesn't bother attacking what doesn't scare him. And you, chosen one, you terrify him because you carry light, because your very presence disrupts darkness, because you're a walking reminder that divine power still moves through flesh and blood. The pressure you're feeling, it's spiritual. The fatigue that hits right when you're about to pray or work on your calling, spiritual. That fog in your mind making you question everything spiritual. This isn't just life happening, it's targeted resistance. And now more than ever, you've got to stay awake. Because let me tell you something many won't. Hell has a playbook. The enemy is methodical, not random. And when a chosen one starts elevating, when your vibration shifts from fear to faith, from reaction to authority, you become a direct threat to the systems of deception. Your light exposes lies. Your truth breaks illusions. Your mere existence gives others permission to wake up. But here's the thing. You can't fight what you don't recognize. That's why this moment right now is so important. You're being called to discern what's really going on around you. Not everything is what it seems. Some arguments are not just personality clashes, they're attacks meant to destabilize you. Some setbacks aren't just bad luck, they're diversions designed to delay you. Some relationships that seemed promising might be energy traps in disguise. And if you've been feeling off, cloudy, disconnected lately, that's not a coincidence. You're being targeted because you're about to elevate. Now let's talk vibration. Every word you speak, every thought you think, every boundary you set or fail to set either strengthens your frequency or weakens it. And when your vibration is high, you repel darkness. But when it drops through fear, resentment, fatigue, self-doubt, that's when the enemy sees an opening. So if the attacks have increased lately, it means one thing: you're getting close. Close to breakthrough. Close to clarity. Close to becoming who you were born to be. And the enemy knows it. That's why he's pressing harder, because he's losing his grip on you. But now, the question isn't why is this happening? It's what am I going to do about it? Chosen one, you can't afford to fight this battle the way the world does. This isn't a flesh and blood war, this is spiritual. And your weapon is your frequency. Your weapon is your alignment with truth. Your weapon is your awareness. You've got to raise your vibration, not just to feel better, but to fight back. Because when your vibration rises, fear can't hold you. Confusion loses its grip. Manipulation has no entry point. You become untouchable, not because the attacks stop, but because they can't penetrate your armor. And that armor, it's forged in prayer, in clarity, in solitude, in obedience, in truth. That's why the distractions have increased. The attacks aren't just coming from outside, they're being sent to create chaos within you. But you know better now. You see it. And once you see the pattern, you can break it. So if the storm has been raging lately, if you've been tempted to give up, to shrink back, to second-guess your entire calling, take a breath. You are not alone. You are not losing. You are leveling up. And every dark force that has been unleashed against you is actually confirmation of how powerful your light has become. This is not the time to doubt. This is the time to stand, because you were born for this battle. You've been prepared in the shadows. And now, the world is about to see what heaven has always known, that when a chosen one stands in their truth, no force of darkness can stop them. You've always felt it, haven't you? That subtle difference. That sense that you were never fully one of them. Maybe it started in childhood. Maybe you couldn't put words to it back then. But deep down, you knew. You saw things others ignored. You felt things others brushed off. You carried wisdom beyond your years. And because of that light within you, pure, unfiltered, divine, you became a target early on, before you even understood what being a chosen one meant. The darkness had already recognized you. That's how spiritual warfare works. It doesn't wait for you to realize your calling. It begins as soon as your spirit vibrates higher than the world around you. Before your first real prayer, before your first act of obedience, before you even dared to step into your assignment, the enemy could already sense the threat you posed. From the start, you were marked, not by man, but by heaven. And because you were marked by God, the darkness marked you too. the moment light identified you. So did the shadows. And that's why your journey has felt different. Cursed, not unlucky, but strategic. Every trial, every rejection, every strange season of silence, it was an early sign that you carried something valuable, something dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. And for many chosen ones, those attacks come long before they ever understand who they are. That's why the wounds run so deep, why childhood memories still sting, why emotional scars never fully faded. You were under siege before you had the tools to defend yourself. That wasn't weakness. That was spiritual assignment. You were attacked for what you would become, not what you were at the time. Think back. How many times did people try to make you question your identity, your worth, your sanity? You were told you were too sensitive, too intense, too quiet, too deep. But what they called too much was actually the mark of spiritual sensitivity, discernment, intuition, sacred knowing. The world wanted you to dull that light, to conform, to compress yourself into a version they could tolerate. But you were never meant to fit in. You were meant to stand out, to break the mold, to disrupt darkness by your very presence. And the enemy knew that. That's why many chosen ones are sent into broken families, places riddled with dysfunction, emotional neglect, even abuse. Because if the enemy can twist your foundation, make you question love, trust, and safety, he can plant seeds of self-doubt that follow you into adulthood. He knows that if you ever truly realized your worth, if you ever truly understood what you carried, you would rise with a power this world has rarely seen. So instead, he tried to crush your spirit before it could soar. But guess what? You survived. And more than that, you remember. You may have been bruised, but your spirit is unbroken. You may have scars, but you carry wisdom in every line. The very attacks that tried to destroy you only deepened your capacity for empathy, discernment, and divine connection. The enemy's plan backfired. What was meant to shatter you has only made you stronger. You're like Moses, pulled from the waters of destruction, raised in the enemy's house, only to one day lead an entire people to freedom. You're like David, overlooked and underestimated, yet chosen to slay giants. You're like Esther, positioned in silence for a divine moment that would change everything. These stories aren't just history. They're spiritual templates. Because chosen ones don't emerge from ease, they are forged through fire. And here's what's even more powerful. You didn't become bitter. Despite everything you endured, despite the betrayals, the confusion, the loneliness, you still chose love. You still chose to seek truth. You still turned to God when the world gave you no answers. That resilience, that's not just personality. That's divine wiring. That's spiritual royalty waking up in you. Because make no mistake, being marked by God doesn't just make you different. It makes you dangerous. Dangerous to lies, dangerous to cycles of dysfunction, dangerous to generational curses. You're not just breaking patterns, you're birthing new realities. And that's why the attacks are so relentless. The darkness knows what's at stake if you ever fully step into your calling. And now, you're starting to. That's what the enemy fears most. Every time you say no to chaos, Your vibration rises. Every time you walk away from toxic patterns, your spiritual light gets brighter. Every time you choose stillness, prayer, solitude, you're strengthening your signal to the divine. And that's when the attacks intensify. Because now, you're not just surviving, you're awakening. So the question becomes, what do you do with this awareness? How do you carry the truth of your chosenness in a world that often can't see it? How do you walk boldly when the battlefield is invisible? You keep rising. You keep protecting your peace like it's sacred ground, because it is. You keep speaking truth even when your voice shakes. You keep trusting the divine timing of your journey, even when you don't see the full map, because you were never meant to walk by sight. You walk by frequency, by spiritual instruction, by the knowing in your bones that you're here for something bigger than comfort, popularity, or worldly success. The enemy may have marked you, but God anointed you, and no attack, no slander, no confusion can erase what heaven has declared over your life. You're rising not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. You're remembering who you are, not who the world told you to be. And every step forward, every act of obedience, every tear turned into testimony confirms it. You're not broken. You're chosen. Now let's pull back the veil a little more. Chosen one. Let's look at the war behind the curtain, the kind that doesn't announce itself with loud footsteps or visible enemies, but with whispers in your mind and patterns in your emotions. Because if you felt like you're being hit in all the same places over and over again, that's not a coincidence. That's a strategy. The dark forces that come against the chosen are not wild or random. They are precise, calculated, patient. You're not being attacked haphazardly. You're being studied. The enemy studies your pain points. He tracks your emotional triggers. He observes what relationships drain you. He pays attention to your cycles, the moments when you feel strongest, and the moments when you feel alone. And when he strikes with intention. The enemy isn't fighting who you were last year. He's fighting who you're becoming. And the thing is, he doesn't need to use monsters or demons to get to you. Most of the time, he uses familiarity. Your past. That one ex who always comes back when you're leveling up. That toxic friend who reappears just when you found peace. That job opportunity that looks like a blessing but feels like a trap in your gut. That old thought pattern whispering, "You're not ready yet." Sound familiar? These are not accidents. These are assignments. Darkness doesn't have to break you if it can bind you, if it can keep you looping through emotional spirals. Addictions to validation or fears of rejection. It doesn't need to drag you to hell if it can convince you to stay in your comfort zone. That's the art of subtle sabotage. And for chosen ones, that sabotage is often internal. The greatest attacks are rarely external. They start in the mind, because if the enemy can get you to believe the wrong story about yourself, he doesn't need chains. Your mind will do the work for him. He'll whisper doubts like, "You're too damaged. You missed your moment. You're alone because something's wrong with you." And over time, you begin to treat those thoughts like facts. But let me say this clearly, those thoughts are not your truth. They're not your intuition. They're not discernment. They're spiritual interference designed to lower your vibration, weaken your authority, and delay your calling. And the moment you recognize that voice, the moment you hear it and say, "No, that's not me. That's not God," that's the moment you begin to break the cycle, because you've got authority. Chosen one. You just haven't always known how to wield it. Now imagine this, you're a warrior, a real one. But instead of a sword, your weapon is truth. Instead of armor, your protection is discernment. And your battlefield, it's in the unseen, the energetic, spiritual realms most people ignore. You walk through crowds and feel the energy shift. You have conversations and catch the undercurrent of manipulation. You wake up from dreams that weren't just dreams, they were warnings. That's not madness. That's your spiritual senses at work. And yet, the world has tried to convince you to numb it down, to stop being so sensitive, to stop overthinking. But what they call overthinking is actually divine perception. You're picking up on frequencies others can't. You're detecting shifts in atmosphere. And that's why the attacks often feel so confusing. Because they're designed to make you distrust that very gift. The enemy wants you to shut down your discernment. He wants you emotionally exhausted. He wants you doubting your intuition. Because the less you trust yourself, the easier it is to control your decisions. But when you start noticing the patterns, when you start tracing the source of the disruption, that's when the shift happens. And here's what you need to know right now. The enemy doesn't get unlimited access. He needs agreement. Sometimes, the warfare intensifies not because God is punishing you, but because you've unknowingly agreed with a lie. Maybe you agree that you're not enough. Maybe you agreed that you'll always be abandoned. Maybe you agreed that your dreams are too big, your voice too small. But every agreement with a lie creates an opening. It weakens your energetic shield. And once the lie is planted, the enemy sends reinforcement experiences that seem to prove the lie. People who echo it, outcomes that validate it. But you're not helpless. You can break the agreement. You do it with truth, with spoken words, with realignment, by saying, "I cancel every lie I've believed about myself. I reject every thought that doesn't reflect divine truth. I reclaim every piece of my identity that fear tried to erase." That's the spiritual reset. And chosen one, you have to do it often because this war is ongoing. You're not crazy for feeling tired. You're not weak for being emotionally overwhelmed. You are under pressure because your presence is powerful. The enemy doesn't study those with no spiritual influence. He doesn't assign agents to people who pose no threat. You're being studied because you're being watched, because your elevation will influence others, because your light causes ripples that shift the atmosphere. Even now, you might be noticing it's certain people pulling away, certain rooms feeling heavy, random technical difficulties, delays, confusion, isolation. These are signs, not setbacks. They're indicators that the spiritual realm is in motion. And instead of fearing them, it's time to observe them. Because when you shift from reacting to discerning, you move from being a target to being a tactician. You start asking questions like, why is this happening now? What old wound is this trying to reopen? What pattern is this trying to repeat? Who benefits if I stay silent right now? Who loses if I stand in my truth? That's spiritual maturity. That's warrior thinking. And with that awareness, you stop getting dragged into every fight. You stop wasting energy trying to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop internalizing every emotion that passes through your body. Instead, you get quiet. You get clear. You get intentional. Because, chosen one, your energy is sacred. Your presence is disruptive. And the more you become aware of how the enemy studies you, the more strategic you become in protecting your light. Remember, you don't have to fear the warfare. You were born for this. But you do have to stay vigilant. Because the enemy doesn't come after your strength, he comes after your vulnerability. And the moment you stop pretending you don't have any, the moment you invite God into those places, the attacks lose their power. You've been studied. But now, you're studying back. And that shift changes everything. Chosen one. Now we need to talk about one of the most overlooked weapons the enemy uses against you, jealousy. Not the kind you feel, but the kind directed at you. And what makes it so dangerous is how subtle it is, how it hides behind fake smiles, familiar faces, and even shared bloodlines. You've likely noticed that some of your deepest wounds didn't come from strangers. They came from people you once trusted. Friends who suddenly grew distant. Family members who turned cold. Colleagues who began to compete when all you offered was collaboration. At first, you blamed yourself. You wondered if you were too much. Too intense, too distant, too confident, too passionate. But what if I told you? It wasn't about you at all. It was about what you carry. See? Jealousy isn't about what you have. It's about what people sense in you. And when you're a chosen one, people can sense your light even before you fully do. They may not have the language for it, but their spirits detect something radiant, something untamed, something anointed in you. And that unspoken brilliance threatens them not because you've done anything wrong, but because your mere presence reveals their shadows. People will start resenting you for how naturally you shine, for the wisdom you speak effortlessly, for the peace you protect without apology, for the favor that seems to follow you, even when you've walked through hell. And when they can't duplicate it, they try to sabotage it. Let me be clear, not everyone can go where you're going. And some of the attacks you're facing aren't just spiritual, they're being carried through people who once claimed to love you. That's how jealousy works in the realm of warfare. It uses proximity. It hides behind affection. It wears the mask of support while quietly planting seeds of confusion and doubt. But here's what makes it truly deceptive. Jealousy doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, "Why them and not me?" It disguises itself as passive aggression, backhanded compliments, dismissive silence, or subtle competition. It shows up as people who praise you publicly but undermine you privately. People who celebrate your wins until you surpass their comfort level. People who only support you when you're struggling because your strength reminds them of what they've refused to cultivate in themselves. And here's the truth. Most won't say out loud for chosen ones. Jealousy is often the gateway for demonic interference. Because once someone allows envy to fester in their spirit, they become spiritually available for the enemy to use. They become vessels not necessarily evil, but vulnerable. And darkness only needs a willing opening to launch an attack. You might have felt it. That moment when a conversation drained your energy for no reason. When someone's compliment felt like a curse wrapped in sugar. When your good news was met with awkward silence. That wasn't your imagination. That was spiritual static. And it's time you stop brushing it off. Not everyone who claps for you is in your corner. Some are just close enough to observe your growth and prepare to sabotage it. That's why discernment is your shield in this season. You're being called to see beyond words and into energy. To move from surface-level logic to spiritual insight. Because protecting your light doesn't just mean avoiding obvious enemies. It means recognizing when familiar faces are carrying unfamiliar spirits. And no, that doesn't mean you walk around paranoid. It means you walk around aware, because awareness is armor. Remember when Joseph shared his dream with his brothers? He wasn't trying to boast, he was simply revealing the vision God placed in him. But even his own family couldn't handle the weight of what he carried. Their jealousy led them to plot against him. And yet, even in the betrayal, God used it. Even in the pit, Joseph was protected. Even in the prison, his favor followed him. That's the mystery of being chosen. You will be opposed. You will be betrayed. But you will not be destroyed. God will use every scheme meant to break you to position you. He'll turn jealousy into elevation. The very ones who try to silence you may end up watching you rise from a distance, unable to stop the favor that was always yours. But first, you've got to set boundaries. You can't keep giving unrestricted access to people who carry unspoken resentment. You can't explain your light to those committed to misunderstanding it. You can't water yourself down to soothe fragile egos. Not now. Not anymore. Because every time you lower your frequency to meet someone else's comfort level, you diminish the very vibration that protects you. And I know it's hard. I know it's painful to pull away from people you once laughed with, prayed with, maybe even grew up with. But elevation comes with separation. God is not trying to punish you. He's trying to preserve you. Because there are certain atmospheres where your purpose cannot fully unfold. And if you stay too long in jealous circles, their energy becomes a cage. You were not created to be caged. You were created to soar, to disrupt patterns, to break bloodline curses, to set captives free, not just with words, but with presence. But presence requires purity, and purity requires protection. So yes, you'll have to make hard choices. You'll have to trust your gut when it says, this person's smile doesn't match their spirit. You'll have to walk away without needing to explain yourself. And when you do, heaven backs you up, because God never removes something without intending to replace it with better, with alignment, with peace. Chosen one. Jealousy will try to break you. But with awareness and spiritual boundaries, it cannot touch what God has sealed. You were born with something this world can't replicate. And that sacred glow, it deserves protection. You don't owe your energy to anyone who envies your evolution. Chosen one. Now we need to enter the battlefield. Most people never talk about the war of energy. The invisible pull, the subtle drain, the heaviness that wraps around you after certain conversations, places, or people. Have you noticed how some environments leave you charged and inspired, while others leave you numb, foggy, and spiritually disoriented? That is not random. That is spiritual sabotage through vibration. You are energy. You are frequency. You are vibration in motion, divinely tuned, heaven crafted. And because your light is rare, it becomes a target for siphoning. That's why you found yourself surrounded, time and again, by people who come alive in your presence, but leave you empty once they're gone. These are energy drainers, frequency saboteurs, and they rarely wear name tags. They come as friends, lovers, family, colleagues, even leaders. But what connects them isn't their role in your life, it's their impact on your vibration. If you leave a conversation feeling confused, emotionally exhausted, questioning your worth, or second-guessing your truth, you didn't just talk to someone. You were spiritually extracted. See, darkness doesn't always come to destroy, it comes to drain. It doesn't need to kill your body if it can wear down your spirit. It doesn't need to make you fall, it just needs you too tired to rise. And that's what many of these vibrational attacks are designed to do. They keep you locked in cycles of survival. They cloud your mind with fatigue and distraction. They wrap your aura in noise until you forget who you are. But now, you're waking up. You're realizing that your energy is currency, that your presence is sacred space, that your peace is not a luxury, it's armor. And this is the turning point, because once you realize your energy is sacred, you begin to steward it like your life depends on it. You stop over-explaining your boundaries. You stop apologizing for your distance. You stop justifying your need for silence. You start discerning environments not based on appearances, but on frequency. You walk into a room and ask yourself, is this feeding my light or draining it? And that question alone will change your entire life, because the enemy knows something about you, something you're only beginning to grasp. When your energy is aligned, your discernment sharpens, your intuition flows, your divine assignments become clear. You start recognizing manipulation before it even speaks. You sense spiritual unrest where others see nothing. And that level of awareness, it's dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. That's why distraction is one of the enemy's most powerful tools. He doesn't need to destroy your destiny. He just needs to distract you from it long enough to delay it. So he sends people who almost feel aligned, situations that nearly match your vision, conversations that feel deep, but go nowhere. He wraps spiritual warfare in emotional entanglement, hoping you'll confuse connection for confirmation. But emotional closeness doesn't equal spiritual alignment. Just because someone is close to you doesn't mean they're called to walk with you. And this is where most chosen ones stumble, not out of rebellion, but out of compassion. Because your heart is expansive. You see potential in people. You feel their pain. You want to help. You want to heal. But you cannot sacrifice your calling to carry what others refuse to release. You are not a rehab center for unhealed souls. You are a warrior, a lighthouse, a guidepost. And yes, your presence will attract the broken. But that doesn't mean you must invite them into your sacred space. Some people are meant to witness your light from a distance. Not everyone deserves access to the oil you've suffered to carry, and I know it's hard. Because your spirit wants to help. But discernment must govern your compassion. Otherwise, your kindness becomes an open door to manipulation. Jesus understood this. He healed thousands. But he didn't take everyone with him. He had his circle, his solitude, his sacred boundaries. Even when people demanded more of him, he withdrew to recharge. That's divine wisdom, not selfishness. That's the template. You can be powerful and still need protection. You are a vessel, not a vending machine. You were not created to pour endlessly while running on fumes. That's not holy, that's self-destruction. And spiritual warfare loves to twist that truth. It tells you that setting boundaries is mean, that protecting your energy is prideful, that saying no is unloving. But what's actually unloving is letting the light in you burn out. Protecting your energy is an act of obedience. It's how you preserve your frequency for what truly matters. For divine assignments, for spiritual downloads, for creation, for intercession, for those God did send into your life. And yes, you'll lose people in the process. But let them go. Because when your frequency shifts, the ones who only loved your lower self won't recognize the new you. That's okay. You're not here to be recognized. You're here to be aligned. And sometimes, alignment requires isolation. Sometimes, protecting your vibration means stepping back from group chats, invitations, even ministries that once felt safe. Not because you're better, but because you're different. You carry something rare. And rare things require rare protection. Chosen one. If you've been feeling drained lately emotionally, spiritually, even physically, it's time to do an energy audit. Who have you allowed into your sacred space? What habits have lowered your vibration? What conversations have left you feeling small? These are not random patterns. They are clues. And the moment you begin to honor your frequency again, everything changes. Your clarity returns. Your joy reignites. Your creativity flows. Your connection with God deepens. Because your vibration is not just a feeling, it's a spiritual posture. It's how heaven speaks through you. And when you protect it, you protect your divine authority. You don't have to save everyone. You just have to stay in alignment. Because from that place of alignment, your very existence becomes deliverance for others. You won't need to force your light on anyone. You'll simply radiate. And those who are meant to rise with you, they'll feel it. They'll find you. But the rest, let them fall away. You're not losing connection. You're gaining clarity. Your energy is sacred. Guard it with everything you've got. Chosen one. By now you're beginning to see the patterns. You're starting to feel the truth in your bones that you were never called to live like the world lives. You are called to move with wisdom, to carry presence, and to protect the very frequency that makes you different. But let's take it further now. Let's talk about your spiritual armor. Because this isn't just about awareness, it's about defense. It's about standing strong in a world that is constantly trying to knock you off balance. You don't just need to know you're chosen, you need to know how to protect what's chosen in you. And that begins with understanding this. Your vibration is not just energy, it's armor. You were never meant to fight spiritual battles with human tools. That's why the world's weapons manipulation, competition, ego, revenge, they don't work for you. They deplete you. They disconnect you. They make you feel like a stranger to yourself. And that's because the power God put in you only flows through alignment, not control. So what does work? What actually protects a chosen one in the midst of chaos, attacks, and rising darkness? Truth, boundaries, discernment, stillness, obedience. These are your weapons. But let's break it down. Your truth is your shield. It's what deflects the lies sent to dismantle you. And I'm not just talking about external lies. I'm talking about the ones that echo in your mind when you're tired. The ones that whisper, you're not good enough. You'll always be alone. You'll never finish what you started. When you declare truth, when you speak truth, those lies lose their grip. The enemy thrives in silence, but truth spoken out loud. That's warfare. Next is discernment. Your ability to see past the surface, to detect energy before it speaks, to know when something feels off, even if everything looks right. That sense is not paranoia. That's divine warning. It's heaven saying, this looks like a gift, but it's actually a trap. Don't dismiss those nudges. They are your early warning system. Trust them. Then there's boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, they are gates. You decide what enters your atmosphere, who has access to your energy, who can influence your thoughts, who is allowed into your sacred space. And here's the key, you don't need a dramatic exit. Sometimes the most powerful boundary is simply distance, silence, or redirecting your attention to what actually feeds your spirit. But one of your strongest shields is stillness, not passivity, not avoidance. Stillness, the kind that says, I don't need to react, I don't need to defend. I will not be baited into battles beneath me. You are not required to respond to every accusation, every misperception, every projection. That's how the enemy drains your energy, through endless cycles of defending what God has already confirmed. But stillness breaks that cycle. It recenters your power. And finally, obedience. That's the game changer, because obedience isn't just following rules, it's spiritual positioning. It's moving when God says move. It's staying hidden when He says, wait. It's walking away even when it hurts. It's saying no when every part of your emotions screams yes. And obedience true, radical, surrendered obedience is what builds the kind of spiritual armor no demon can penetrate. When you're obedient, you walk under divine protection. You move in step with heaven. You make decisions based not on fear or pressure, but on alignment. And alignment is where your power lives. It's where clarity comes. It's where warfare becomes irrelevant, because the enemy can't hit what's been fully surrendered. Chosen one, you don't need to swing wildly in every direction. You just need to stand. Stand in your truth. Stand in your discernment. Stand behind the shield of stillness. Stand inside the gate of your boundaries. Stand in the confidence that obedience is your weapon. But let me make this practical, because this isn't just poetry. This is survival. There are people assigned to drain you. There are conversations designed to distract you. There are patterns waiting to trap you. And every day you wake up as a chosen one. You step onto a battlefield. But you don't have to walk out naked. You don't have to face the day unprotected. You armor yourself through your choices. Wake up and align your energy. Speak life over yourself. Guard your atmosphere like it holds your destiny, because it does. Don't scroll aimlessly when your spirit is hungry for stillness. Don't engage in arguments that shift your focus from purpose to pettiness. Don't explain your evolution to people who refuse to evolve. Just armor up and walk on. You've got the oil. You've got the authority. You've got the anointing. Now it's time to protect it. Let's look at a story you know well. David facing Goliath. Saul offered him armor, heavy and glittering, the kind the world trusted. But David couldn't move in it. It wasn't his. Instead, he picked up stones, something simple, spiritual, aligned. And that's what brought down a giant. You don't need what the world uses. You need what fits you. Your stone is your truth. Your sling is your voice. Your armor is your frequency. And when you're aligned, giants fall. This is the season to stop reacting and start responding. To stop leaking energy and start wielding it. You are not fragile. You are fortified. You are not broken. You are battle-born. But without spiritual armor, your light becomes vulnerable. Not because it isn't powerful, but because it's unguarded. And what God is calling you into now will require a protected spirit. You're stepping into higher terrain territory that demands intentional energy, clean motives, and fortified focus. So, yes, the attacks may continue. But now you're no longer surprised. You're suited up. And when darkness tries to return, it won't find an entry point, it'll find a fortress. A fortress built by obedience, guarded by truth, fueled by discernment, and crowned with peace. Chosen one. Your armor is your vibration. Your protection is your awareness. And your victory that's already been written. Chosen one. Let's talk about the part of the journey that feels the most confusing, the most isolating, and yet strangely, the most sacred. Isolation. That quiet space where nothing seems to make sense. Where doors close, people vanish, opportunities disappear, and suddenly, it's just you. Alone with your thoughts. Alone with your soul. Alone with God. But here's what you need to know. Isolation isn't punishment. It's preparation. When you're chosen, your elevation requires separation. Not because you're being cast aside, but because God is clearing the noise. He's removing the distractions. He's breaking the attachments that no longer serve where He's taking you. And though it hurts to watch people walk away. It's necessary. Because your next level cannot carry the weight of dead connections. You've likely asked yourself, why do I always end up alone? Or why do people pull away when I need them most? And the enemy loves to weaponize that silence. He'll whisper, see, no one really cares. You're not lovable. You're hard to deal with. You're too much. But hear me now. Those thoughts are lies. Carefully crafted lies designed to keep you from seeing the truth. You're being hidden for your protection. Think about every sacred object in history. Was it left out in the open, passed around casually? No, it was preserved, guarded, hidden, prepared. Not because it was weak, but because it was valuable. And that's what God does with chosen ones. He hides you. He shields you. He allows the crowd to scatter, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Because when you're surrounded by noise, you miss divine whispers. When you're always in motion, you can't recognize your own internal rhythm. Isolation forces you to pause, to reflect, to detox from the energies that have shaped you but no longer define you. This isn't exile. This is sacred stillness. Even Jesus withdrew. He didn't step into public ministry until after 40 days alone in the wilderness. Moses encountered the divine in solitude. Elijah heard the still, small voice not in thunder or earthquake, but in the quiet. The pattern is clear. Before major purpose comes divine pause. Before you're revealed, you are refined. And this refining process, it's uncomfortable. It strips away the illusions. It shows you where you've been holding on to false identities. It brings up memories you'd rather avoid, fears you thought you'd buried, desires you've ignored. It feels like unraveling, but it's actually uncovering. It's God showing you what's real and what was never yours to carry. You begin to see clearly who was using you, who only stayed because of your silence, what jobs, habits, or routines were draining you, what dreams were based on fear instead of faith. And it's painful, but it's freeing, because you're not just being isolated. You're being cleansed. You're shedding everything that would have sabotaged your next season. But here's the secret. Most don't realize your power grows in the silence. This is where your frequency recalibrates. This is where your gifts sharpen. This is where you begin to trust your own voice again. No longer filtered through the expectations of others. No longer diluted by the need for approval. Just you and God. You and the unshakable truth of your calling. Yes, it can feel lonely. And yes, your heart aches for connection. But even in that ache, there's a holy invitation to stop running, to stop striving, to sit in the presence of your own soul and realize you are enough. You are complete. You are not abandoned. You are anchored. Because here's the thing. Chosen one, not everyone could go where you're going. If they had stayed, their energy would have contaminated the blessing. Their presence would have diluted the miracle. God saw what you couldn't. He heard conversations behind closed doors. He felt intentions before they were acted upon. So he moved. Quietly. Swiftly. Without warning, he removed them for you. To protect what you carry. To preserve what he's planted in you. And now, you're in the in-between. No longer who you were. Not yet where you're going. And that's okay. This is the chrysalis, the cocoon, the holy in-between where transformation takes place. The world may not see it, but heaven is watching closely. Angels are guarding you. Divine timing is unfolding. You are not forgotten. You are being fortified. In this stillness, your authority is being restored. Your vision is clearing. Your inner compass is being tuned to divine frequency. So don't rush the process. Don't curse the quiet. Don't try to force open doors that God sealed shut. Instead, lean in. Listen. Learn yourself again. Who are you when no one's watching? What do you hear when the noise fades? What do you feel when you stop numbing the discomfort? Those are the questions that lead to true power. Because identity discovered in isolation is identity that cannot be manipulated. And when it's time, when God sees that you've been tempered, clarified, refined, He will reintroduce you, not as the version the world tried to mold, not as the smaller self you once thought you had to be, but as the radiant, grounded, spiritually armored vessel He always knew you were. So for now, rest, not laziness, not apathy. Rest, sacred, strategic, intentional rest. Trust that while it feels like nothing is happening, everything is shifting. You are not buried. You are planted. And when you rise again, and you will, you'll carry a vibration so pure, so potent, that the very forces that once tried to break you will have no choice but to flee. The isolation wasn't punishment. It was transformation. Chosen one. Your wings are forming in the silence. And now, chosen one, we arrive at the threshold. The culmination of everything you've endured, survived, and awakened to. This is not the end of the path. This is the beginning of your rising. Because all that pressure, all that pain, all that isolation, the relentless attacks, the invisible warfare, it wasn't meant to destroy you. It was designed to reveal you. You are standing in the doorway of divine emergence. And what's waiting on the other side of this threshold isn't comfort, it's calling. It's purpose. It's the life your spirit always knew existed, but your flesh could never quite reach. Until now, you see, you've been trained for this. The betrayals weren't random. The spiritual attacks weren't accidents. The fatigue, the delays, the heartbreak, the confusion, they were all part of a process. A process heaven allowed, not to break you, but to build in you a fire that couldn't be extinguished by external chaos. A light that doesn't dim in the dark. A faith that doesn't flinch in the face of fear. This is your shift. The atmosphere has changed. The spiritual pressure is not an attack anymore. It's a signal. The forces of darkness feel your vibration rising. They sense your clarity. They hear the frequency of your alignment echoing through the realm. And they are terrified. Because when a chosen one fully remembers who they are, everything changes. This is why you've been attacked so heavily lately. Because your power is no longer dormant. It's active. It's stirring. It's commanding. And it's not just elevating you. It's shifting those connected to your assignment. Your obedience is opening portals. Your clarity is unlocking destinies. Your healing is becoming contagious. But now, you've got to stand in it. You can no longer shrink to soothe egos. You can no longer silence your knowing to maintain peace. You can no longer delay your assignments, waiting for external validation. The time is now, and the you that's rising. That version is not to be played with. You're stepping into full spiritual authority. The kind that doesn't need applause. The kind that doesn't chase confirmation. The kind that simply moves because you know God is in it. And yes, the warfare will continue, but it won't shake you anymore. Because now you know who you are. Now you recognize the signs. Now you discern the patterns. And more importantly, you've built your spiritual armor. You've refined your boundaries. You've purified your motives. You've reclaimed your frequency. And your frequency, chosen one, is your sword. You fight not by force, but by alignment. You war not through worry, but through wisdom. You slay demons by staying in divine rhythm, rising when God says rise, resting when God says rest, speaking when heaven opens your mouth, and walking away when your spirit senses a snare. You've become untouchable not because the attacks stop, but because they no longer penetrate. They slide off you. They bounce off your field because your spirit has outgrown your former fears. And as you rise, remember this truth: your elevation will expose the motives of others. Not everyone will clap. Not everyone will understand. But you weren't chosen to be understood. You were chosen to be used by God for glory, for awakening, for the liberation of souls still trapped in darkness. You are a mirror, a catalyst, a living, breathing answer to someone else's silent prayer. And the more you align with your calling, the more your very presence becomes a deliverance. So stop waiting to feel ready. You've already been equipped. Stop shrinking your truth. The world is desperate for what you carry. Stop delaying your obedience. Destiny is on the other side of your yes. This is the moment. Chosen one. You've seen the dark. You've walked through fire. You've survived betrayals that would have broken the average soul. And yet you're still here, still standing, still glowing, still hearing the voice of God calling you deeper, higher, forward. You are not who you used to be, and you will never return to that version. You've crossed over. You've awakened. And now, your assignment isn't just to survive. It's to reign in peace, in truth, in full divine expression. You are heaven's disruption in human form, a warrior disguised as a wanderer, a storm of light sent to shatter illusion. This is your rebirth. This is your return. This is your rise. And no weapon formed against you, no plot, no whisper, no attack shall prosper. Because when a chosen one finally remembers their power, the darkness has no choice but to flee. Take a breath. Chosen one. Let your shoulders drop. Let your heart rest. Let your soul exhale. You are seen. You are known. You are protected. What you've been carrying in silence, heaven has recorded. The nights you cried alone, the moments you doubted your path, the times you almost gave up but didn't. They were not wasted. They were sacred. God has not forgotten you. Every delay was preparation. Every detour was divine protection. Every loss created space for alignment. And now, the shift is here. You're not stepping into the next season empty, you're stepping in ready. With vision, with authority, with spiritual eyes wide open, you are surrounded by divine presence. You are held in spiritual armor. You are being guided, even when you don't feel it. Angels are assigned to you. Doors are being opened that no man can shut. And the ones that closed, they were never meant to hold your calling. You are rising. You are glowing. You are leading. And those with eyes to see will feel it. They'll be drawn to your frequency. Not because you try, but because you are. You are the proof that light cannot be extinguished. That truth will always rise. That being chosen was never about perfection, but about obedience. So now, walk in it. Don't look back. Don't apologize for your glow. Don't question your knowing. Stand tall. Speak boldly. Love deeply. And never forget, you are here on purpose. For purpose. Backed by heaven. Guarded by grace. God bless you.